There he is. There's Marco D'Amico. I am Shaun Starr. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Awesome to hit over 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Have fans wait and wait and wait. And I remember, when you and I were sharing a studio together talking about the draft choice of Canadiens defenseman David Reinbacher, the one thing I was kind of sold on was how fundamentally strong I believe this young man to be when he gets graduated to the NHL. Defensive soundness, defensive foundation, rock solid. I really wasn't thinking offense. But watching the rookie showcase over the weekend at the Bell Center, I'm not saying I'm worried about defensive coverage. The offense, the skating was there, but your impressions for how he looked in his own end, because I've been raising this point with you for weeks now. Canadiens have a lot of offensive-minded guys. Like, who's going to be really good at playing defense? So, give me your take on Reinbacher in his own end. Let's concentrate on that.
Yeah, it's a little nuanced of an evaluation, and I want to be clear. I don't want to be negative in what I say, but there's room for improvement, of course.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the constructive stuff, and I'll get to the positive in the end. I felt like, for example, on that second goal, where he got basically walked by Chase Yoder. Again, I felt like it was more of an over, like you could either call it aggressive or lackadaisical. It really is kind of the same in the situation, which is rare. But that poke check of his was very weak in the sense that his body continued in the same direction as his poke check. In the NHL, you stabilize and you poke, and then you push off with the leg that stabilized you to skate backwards so that you don't allow the corridor to open up towards the goalie, and then you're in prime position to stop a pass or to stop him from coming into the slot. Like, that's the way you do it. Whereas Reinbacher just kept going, right? Those are elements in hockey that you can get away with a little bit when it's the two defensemen handling a 2-on-2, but in a 1-on-1 situation, when it's just you and that player rushing in horizontally while the guy's coming at you vertically is an 100% chance of something going wrong. And so it's more that aspect of it's calming down his game in being able to execute that kind of rush defense, I find. And so that element there was something that I actually spoke to Pascal Vincent about directly, in the sense that the Canadiens feel like, he has the tools to be effective there. They just want to work with him in terms of like choosing his spots a little better, or at least making better decisions when it comes to, I guess, crisis situations, right? Like not instinctually acting, or if you are, to fix those habits or to change those habits to make it a little bit more conducive to successful puck retrieval or zone killing, right? And I think that's the idea. On the flip side, man, does this man cover ice?
Yeah,
like
easily, huh? Like
incredible. Like at one point, I remember, because you look up from above, right? And so you look at his hand range, and then you add a stick to it, and this guy covers the entirety of a circle dot in the defensive zone in just overall man coverage. And then you have a loose puck in the corner. His stick is going to get there first, because I've actually, and this is something I noticed yesterday, on Saturday, is that you really see a little bit like his first two steps, he takes off now. He really, really does push off with a little bit more explosiveness that allows him to win those puck battles, allows him to get to those pucks first and kick, like slap them out of the zone or recoup them and, sending him back the other way to Adam Engstrom. Like there were elements I really enjoyed in terms of his puck retrieval and his puck aggressiveness. And that's an element that the Canadiens have been pushing a lot on their defenses. We have to get to pucks first, and I paraphrase. So seeing a guy like David Reinbacher, do that to a T was excellent, but not simply just in the defensive zone, also in the offensive zone. Many clears, again, lanky, massive range, many clears he was able to block, many plays he was able to slow down. Those are intrinsic little elements to games, details in a game that to me scream pro hockey player, pro top four defenseman. What will make him that number two that Kent Hughes projected him to be on draft day will be about calming his game down and really kind of having him focus on that man-to-man coverage in a more implicit way.
That makes sense, because when you get to the National Hockey League and you're, projected to be so and so, and then hopefully you take all those steps to become that player, right? Gap control in his end is everything. So when you talk about, the range of motion, the wingspan, so to speak, the ability to make up lost ground because he's so dynamic with his first couple of strides, that to me is what's going to allow him to become this elite level defenseman. And, something that you brought up a few weeks ago, to tie it into Noah Dobson. It's one of the best moves the Canadiens made. Not only do they get a stud defenseman that wants to come put his hand up and say, yeah, Montreal's a place I want to play, it just gives David Reinbacher, and if you watch him play on the weekend, you see it. Like, no disrespect, you're just telling it like it is. He's not ready for a full-time role to play 20-plus minutes at the National Hockey League. I mean, that's the early read from the weekend, and that's why the Noah Dobson signing was so important, because it just slows everything down. So what's the vision, Pascal Vincent, that you think Vincent is going to have? Like, is he going to be PK, power play, first wave? Are they going to try to mold him to be that multi-dimensional top pair defenseman? Is that the goal here?
Yes, absolutely. And I think you have no choice. He's a 5th overall pick. Like, you have to be an all situations player. Yeah. I'm not saying, with the acquisition of a Noah Dobson, I don't think that Reinbacher sniffs a power play at the NHL for the Montreal Canadiens, unless there's injuries, of course. But with those two, with Lane and Noah there now, like that's out of the question. But playing a kind of defenseman like that on the power play in the American Hockey League, I've said this before, it allows them to think the game more offensively because they have more time and space to do so on a power play. Those are translatable skills that you can then carry over to your 5-on-5 game with a little bit more confidence. And I think that's the element of growth that they want to see, because if you can, giving him more penalty kill time, for example, will allow him to work more on his man-to-man coverage, right? You're playing zone coverage on a PK because you're down a man, right? You can't play man-to-man, or else there's one guy that's going to be alone that's going to go right to the net and score. But you can go in and out of zone and man-to-man coverage depending on what the triangle looks like in the defensive zone, what the situation is at the point, who's behind you and below the goal line, et cetera, and et cetera. So it consistently changes the viewpoint of your coverage, which allows you to, or forces you to adapt in every single situation. Whereas at 5-on-5, generally, especially when it comes to rush defense, it's you, the player, and a potential other option on the side if it's an odd man play. And so you have to think the game a little bit more linearly at 5-on-5 than you would on the penalty kill, because there is more attack opportunity on the penalty kill. Those are the kinds of reps and exercises that allow for a younger player to be more effective come 5-on-5, which, let's call a spade here. Mm-hmm. David Reinbacher, if he makes the NHL, is going to play heavy 5-on-5 minutes and penalty kill. So you want him to be ready to do that and to excel at 5-on-5, because realistically speaking, the way that I see it, Noah Dobson and Caden Gooley is a match made in heaven for a top pair.
I agree. You're getting into my next question. I want to know who he's going to play with in the best case when he gets to the NHL and he's ready to be an everyday guy.
I think it's so look at the complicity that he has with Adam Engstrom. Imagine the complicity he's going to have with a guy like Lane Hutson. and I think Lane Hutson is a simplifier of the game, in my opinion. And so you saw that the way that Lane Hutson's game meshed with Jaden Struble. Yeah, and Jaden Struble is a very no-nonsense kind of defensive player, but has good physical tools. His physical play, his skating is very good. Puck carrying is very NHL level right now. And so the two meshed well together. Well, I think David Reinbacher can bring that in spades. So, I think it's very interesting to me that if they're trying to build him up that way, then you would eventually slot him in next to Lane, right? And that's the reason why the Canadiens have kept a guy like Mike Matheson around, despite all the push to trade him, is because David Reinbacher isn't ready for that role. They don't want Alex Carrier in that role, and for all intents and purposes, Mike Matheson can play on his offside. And that pairing actually did, quite well last season. So you gave a guy like David Reinbacher a little bit of time, but giving him more time doesn't mean that things aren't going to pan out. He's got a lot of hockey to catch up on, folks. He's only played 69 games since being drafted. And, and this includes in the Swiss League, right? He's only played like 30 games, 26, I believe, in the American Hockey League over 2 seasons with the playoffs included. So you got to give this man reps. You got to let this guy play. And Pascal Vincent said it point blank. He's like, what you saw last night, or what you saw on Saturday night, what you see on Sunday afternoon is due in large part to the fact that he needs reps. He needs more time to be polished. He needs more experience. And I feel like that rings true in the sense that he hasn't been put in all situations. Like, yes, he performed admirably in the playoffs, and that you saw a really like exponential curve in his performances. But this is a guy that continues to get better the more reps that he gets. So I don't think first or second game of a rookie camp is the best way to evaluate what he is as a prospect. But I think that we're going to be having a very different conversation about him in November after like a good month in the American Hockey League, where he's really gotten, those practices in, been able to continue to hit the gym and so on and so forth. And, on that count, and I do want to add this for fans, because I know a lot of fans ask these questions. His knee is at 100%. We were talking to him in the dressing room, and, like you really saw he worked on his knee, like the quad connectors next to his knee, like those look to be strongly reinforced. And I think everybody kind of saw it, like his mobility was definitely up, I would say a good level, if not 2, during rookie camp. So I look very much forward to seeing what he looks like in a more structured environment and in a NHL training camp and in preseason games, vis-a-vis just like a rookie camp, where some of these games are just all over the place and have very little structure to them.
Totally. That's Marco D'Amico. You can follow him at MN D'Amico, and you can support us by supporting our sponsors like Little Bear, littlebearonline.com, with delivery to your house. Everything you need for your pet's needs, bedding, crates, transportation, perhaps taking your family member with you on a nice little road trip. Little Bear can hook you up, and always all the nutritional information you're going to need to make sure that your dog, your cat is getting the best from their food. The expert staff that doesn't push an agenda, it can be found at Little Bear, proud sponsor of this show. Marco D'Amico at MN D'Amico. Thanks as always. We're that much closer. Get ready. Obviously, Canadiens main camp is open by the time you're watching this, so we're that much closer to seeing the next step, the evolution of the next generation of Montreal Canadiens. And Marco and I will be here to cover it as you're used to watching. Marco, thanks as always, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Everybody have a good day.